Next on the news. You can still smell the smoke, but repairs at this church in the Bronx are now underway, and parishioners are just thanking God the fire wasn't worse.
It's going to take months to recover, but parishioners here haven't missed a mass. I'm Jessica Easthope with Why They Say Their Faith Has Changed Forever.
His first face-off. New York City's mayor wants schools to stay open, but a group of teachers are suing the city. They want 2 weeks of remote learning. And New York's thousands of nursing home deaths, it's likely no one will ever be held responsible, not even the former governor, the district attorney closing the probe. Plus, the only thing left, a statue of Mary unscathed by those Colorado wildfires. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now.
You don't have to be in church to pray or to have God present. He's with us all the time.
Parishioners of Saint Helena's in Parkchester rising from the ashes of their church, rebuilding after a fire tore through it the day after Christmas. But they're not taking it as a loss. They're taking this tragedy as an opportunity to get back to the basics of their faith. Currents News' Jessica Easthope is in Parkchester touring the damage.
That char mark behind me from the smoke coming out of the sacristy climbs 4 feet up that wall. It's a crushing sight for parishioners who say instead of mourning, they're getting motivated.
But deliver us from evil.
Suzanne Piscatelli goes to Mass every day. She doesn't need a big church or ornate decorations. All she needs is Christ. That's why this small room in the back of St. Helena's property is just fine.
Father David has done everything in his power, I believe, to have the parishioners feel like they're welcomed. Jesus is welcoming them to come to Mass.
Parishioners come here to worship now.
Lord, hear our prayers.
The rumble of the 6 train muffling their prayers. Inside the main church, it's silent, except for the hum of filters and generators. The day after Christmas, a 6-alarm fire in an electrical panel ripped through the sacristy. The flames were contained, but the damage is extensive, and a strong smell of smoke lingers.
These were in the sacristy.
Pastor Father David Powers says the church hasn't missed a Mass.
We pray for those intentions we hold.
And celebrating in this room that fits 24 instead of the church that fits 1,200 is allowing people to get back to basics.
I don't think the location is as important as the people who come. Where 2 or more are gathered together in my name, I am present. That's really what this is about.
You don't have to be in church to pray or to have God present. He's with us all the time.
Christ.
As the church community recovers, Father Powers says it's a chance to make the building and foundation of faith even stronger.
Something like this motivates you to say, how can we make things better? And to spend a more intense relationship with the Lord.
Father Powers estimates the cost of the damage reaches into the hundreds of thousands, with the church having to pay for whatever insurance doesn't cover. He's hoping to be celebrating Mass at the main altar again in March. In the Bronx, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
If you want to help parishioners get their church and school back, you can make a donation. Just write out a check to St. Helena Roman Catholic Church and send it to 1315 Olmsted Avenue, Bronx, New York, 10462. The church is also planning to host a concert on Saturday, April 9th. Proceeds will go towards the repairs, and tickets will be available to purchase soon. Just keep checking the church's website, churchofsthelena.com, for details. Meanwhile, in the city's public schools, where nearly 1 million kids were expected to return to class on Monday, only 67% of students showed up. That's according to the Department of Education. In the fall, attendance was close to 90%. With COVID numbers continuing to climb, especially among unvaccinated children, some parents and teachers are calling for a sick out to protest the lack of a remote option. The ongoing surge also has schools struggling to keep their doors open as more teachers call out sick. The no remote option even has a small group of New York City school teachers suing the DOE DOE, asking a judge to force the city to go remote for the next 2 weeks until COVID cases ease up. They argue that a temporary restraining order would give students and staff the chance to be tested before returning to the classroom. But Mayor Eric Adams is standing his ground, saying schools will stay open and that adults are traumatizing the city's kids.
The thing in the country, in the city right now, that adults must stop traumatizing children. We must stop giving the appearance that there's hysteria among those who are making the decision.
The mayor insists there is no conflict between him and the teachers union and that the safest place for children right now is to stay in school. Outside the city, the Omicron variant continues to take its toll nationwide. With hospitalizations on the rise, the CDC is now expected to release potential new isolation guidelines. Daryl Forges has the details.
Omicron is very transmissible variant, but much different than anything we've seen before.
COVID positive case numbers continue to increase, and so are hospitalizations.
Unvaccinated are taking up hospital beds and crowding emergency rooms and intensive care units. That's displacing other people who need access to those hospitals.
According to data from the Department of Health and Human Services, more than 110,000 people are in hospitals with COVID. That's more than 60% higher than 2 weeks ago. The CDC says the majority of those hospitalized are unvaccinated.
Our vaccines, especially when combined with our boosters, have remained extremely effective at keeping people out of the hospital and at saving their lives.
Pediatric hospitalizations are now at record numbers. The CDC reports more than 500 children admitted each day last week.
So they're getting a lot of respiratory symptoms, as we've been expecting. Pneumonias, needing respiratory support to help them breathe better.
This as the CDC is expected to update its guidance on the recommended isolation period, according to a source familiar with the plan. Some health experts believe there is a way for people to live in the world of COVID.
We don't ask people to stay at home, but we say in public indoor settings, everybody should be wearing high quality masks. We are requiring for people, I believe we should require vaccination and boosters for places like restaurants and concert venues to further reduce risk.
Daryl Forges, Currents News.
As COVID numbers continue to soar in New York, Governor Kathy Hochul is preparing her first State of the State address as New York's disgraced former governor, Andrew Cuomo, gets a reprieve. The Manhattan District Attorney has dropped the investigation of alleged mismanagement by the Cuomo administration for underreporting the number of nursing home deaths statewide during the initial outbreak of the coronavirus. Cuomo will also not be prosecuted for allegations that he groped a former aide 2 years ago in the executive mansion. While the Albany District Attorney's office found the allegations credible, they doubted they could prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. The former governor was expected to be arraigned in court this Friday. The U.S. continues to see staffing shortages across the board. According to the Labor Department, more than 4.5 million people voluntarily left their jobs in November alone. That's 3 million more compared to the number of resignations in October. And while the Labor Department is also reporting a drop in job availability, the numbers are still larger than they were pre-pandemic. But taking a look at the new year, analysts say the U.S. economy is rushing in with serious momentum. Reports show average weekly jobless claims near their lowest level in 52 years, and unemployment rates continue to trend downward. Even so, as Jen Sullivan reports, economists warn of 5 risks that could derail everything.
Heading into 2022, the economy is booming, but economists warn several risks this year can change all that, starting with COVID.
It's going to do damage. It already has started to do that. You could see that with the cancellation of air flights. Restaurant bookings are down. Credit card spending on travel is off.
Then there's the risk of inflation staying hot. While some economists predict inflation will cool off later in the year, prices for food, gas, and housing are still high. The third risk? Supply chains staying scrambled. The Delta variant impacted supply chains in several ways, including getting workers sick. And while it's still early, economists predict the same could happen with Omicron.
We see various goods still quite difficult to get. So I remain worried about those problems, even if they weren't quite as bad as we were worried about, a few weeks ago.
Then there's the potential for a Fed policy mistake. The Federal Reserve is ending its emergency support for the economy and plans to raise interest rates. One economist says OMICRON could destabilize the economy and force the Fed to delay that.
The Fed may delay when it actually begins to start raising interest rates, which right now feels like it's going to be sometime May or June of 2022, but they could delay it.
Also on that note, after providing nearly $6 trillion the past 2 years, Uncle Sam is slowing support. Fiscal stimulus and spending are expected to slow dramatically in 2022. And finally, the unexpected, the risk of a surprise event that could impact the economy. I'm Jen Sullivan.
From a booming economy to booming immigration in Mexico, the country saw a record number of asylum seekers in 2021. That's according to a group that helps refugees in Mexico. There were more than 131,000 asylum requests, which is nearly 87% higher than the previous record set in 2019. Those looking to enter Mexico were mostly from Honduras and Haiti. Violence is a big reason why many Haitians are leaving their own country. Just this weekend, there was an assassination attempt on the life of Haiti Prime Minister Ariel Henry. A group of gunmen tried to kill him during an event at a church commemorating the country's independence. Henry was sworn in as Prime Minister just 2 weeks after Haiti's president, Jovenel Moïse, was assassinated. There's a lot more news headed your way. Mother Nature continues to pound the country with wild weather, this time with a snowstorm that had some commuters stranded for more than 20 hours. Then a small miracle in the Colorado neighborhood where almost every home was destroyed by fire. A statue of the Virgin Mary survived unscathed. We talked to the statue's owners coming up. And parishioners in the Diocese of Brooklyn are lifting spirits and raising money for people in need with their annual Three Kings Toy Drive. We'll tell you all about it.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
Imagine being trapped in this kind of traffic for more than 20 hours. That was the reality for hundreds of drivers in Virginia Monday night and into Tuesday, stuck on a 50-mile stretch of the interstate, stranded in the snow. The irony, most counties in Virginia got less than a foot of snow. Some parts of Interstate 95, where those people are trapped, saw between 4 to 7 inches. Other parts saw 15 inches. And while that might not seem like enough to shut down a major highway, as Mike Valerio reports, drivers were getting desperate for help.
I have never been this frightened on the road before.
Gina and her family FaceTimed us from I-95, stopped hours after the storm near Fredericksburg. They're one of the hundreds of cars seen from above involved in crashes or stranded with no end in sight.
Now there's people walking down 95.
Oh yeah, oh goodness. Okay, so there's someone walking toward us. This is scary. Because they could be easily wiped out by a sliding vehicle.
Off 95 in Dumfries, a crush of cars with people trying to either get off the highway or get a hot meal.
It's crazy. Not only that, but there's a power outage. So therefore, all the restaurants are closed.
A look at the interstate shows little treatment, and the concern tonight, the refreeze making conditions worse.
The roads are ice covered. I mean, we haven't seen a plow truck or a police officer in 7 hours.
That was Mike Valerio reporting. Virginia Governor Ralph Northam says his team worked through the night to get out emergency messages to those stranded drivers. He didn't say when the situation would be resolved. Meanwhile, cars, buses, and planes came to a halt in the nation's capital after some more snow there. D.C. saw more than a foot of snow in some parts, the area's largest snowfall since 2016. The district says more than 100 trucks are out plowing the streets, but pedestrians are taking it into their own hands, breaking out their shovels. One father and son team got to work soon after the storm ended so they could help out their neighbors.
So we have a deacon at our church that's an older gentleman, so we'll go and hit his yard. And then he has a teacher from grade school that lives around the corner. I'd rather get out here and get the big stuff out of the way.
I don't really like snow. I don't like shoveling, but it got to be done.
More than 100,000 people around D.C., Maryland, and Northern Virginia are without power after the storm. In Kentucky, a Catholic church congregation says they prayed their way through a tornado. Parishioners at St. Peter and Paul Church in Hopkinsville say they were praying the rosary after early morning mass New Year's Day when the storm hit their church. The group started to pray louder as the church shook and the lights flickered. The tornado passed in a few minutes with no injuries and only minor damage. As hundreds of families begin the arduous process of rebuilding their homes following that Colorado wildfire, one Catholic couple saw a sign of hope, their Mary statue standing tall amid the rubble. Tom Graney and his wife Kat found the image of the Blessed Mother unscathed. She was surrounded by bricks from their recently remodeled Louisville home, completely untouched but for some soot on the right side. Their home, one of 50 houses in their neighborhood that was destroyed by the fire. The couple who owns the statue says it's a reminder of how their faith provides protection. Tom Graney joins us now. And Tom, first of all, we're very happy that you're okay. Describe for us what you saw when you returned to your neighborhood after the fire.
Well, the neighborhood's demolished. 50 of 55 homes were completely destroyed. And then the neighborhoods to our east and south, similarly completely destroyed. So yeah, utter devastation.
I know your wife, Kat, is there with you as well. I know I read that you said the statue of Mary that was in front of your home, I believe, was covered in soot. But besides that, it was in perfect form?
Yeah. Bricks laying around it, crumbled mortar, twisted steel beams. Obviously, it was an inferno and very high heat. Our melted front doors were laying in a ball not 2 feet from it. And it didn't even move.
I mean, you're so full of faith. Is the statue bringing hope to your neighbors too? I mean, I know you said there's nothing.
So, we kind of all scattered. There's been some people that have definitely been blessed by this. I've heard from a couple of people that thanked me for that message because I think it really does help people who are kind of teetering on the abyss of, despair. Yeah.
Wow. Some might say, why did God allow this to happen to me? But you called it an opportunity. Talk about that.
Yeah. So God didn't make this happen. I want to be clear. People always ask that question. Right. How can you believe in a God that would do this or allow this? God gave us free will. Things happen. But what I can tell you is that he does not let you walk this path alone. He provides great comfort. We have devotion to our Blessed Mother, and absolutely, it was like she was saying, I'm praying for you. I'm weeping with you. You're not walking this path alone. You are loved, and we're with you.
Absolutely. Tom Graney, Kat Graney, thank you so much for talking to us. We're happy that your family is safe, and we're praying for you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
The greatest gift you can give.
It certainly is. The wildfires destroyed nearly 1,000 homes, among them one family who has been in Boulder County for more than 80 years. Angeli McCall has the Chavez family story of generations of loss and how they plan to rebuild.
5 buildings, but 4 families. It's going to be where the white car is, the first white car, all the way through the second white car. That's just amazing. It's all gone. All gone.
Ted Chavez grew up here, then raised his kids here.
5 generations. This is our 5th generation right here. These 2 are our 5th generation. We want to leave it to them. Yes, we do.
This land has been in their family for 80 years in Old Town Superior.
To come here and see this is just devastating.
They've seen Old Town welcome the new.
This is new and old. New, old, and new.
Like his friend, Adam.
That's my neighbor. Lives right across the street from me. His house is still standing.
The old memories they share with new friends.
We used to party in high school back there.
You're on video.
No one knows this town better than the originals.
McClare's, Sharps, Bentners.
Through the years, they've chosen to stay.
We were all family, and we still are.
So many of the original families will make that same choice again.
It's funny, I was thinking about moving, but now I'm not. It takes a tragedy to happen to make my mind up.
Any other option wouldn't feel right.
This is our life. There's nothing, this is all we know, right, actually. I know the kids want to say, well, do you want to move out? No, I'm not moving out. Maybe when I'm If the good Lord calls for me, they can take me out. But right now I'm staying.
Just like their past generations.
My grandfather built 2 houses.
Yeah.
Now I get to do 4. Me and my brother, the family, we're going to build it.
Yeah.
This is going to be nice.
That was Angeline McCall reporting. Colorado's governor has promised the state will help with the rebuilding process. FEMA has also assigned 100 agency personnel to help find temporary housing for people displaced by the fire. And the recent fires are the most destructive in Colorado's history. Local Catholic parishes are now helping the families affected, and the Archdiocese of Denver has established an emergency fund for them. If you'd like to donate, you can find the fund at the Archdiocese's website. That's archden.org. Archbishop Samuel Aquila also offered these words of comfort, writing, "To those affected by these fires, know that Joseph and Mary had to flee with Jesus shortly after he was born. The Holy Family is close to you and knows the anguish and loss you are feeling. You are in my prayers and the prayers of our faithful." In the Diocese of Brooklyn, parishioners with Our Lady of Sorrows in Corona are also lending a helping hand to people in need with their annual Three Kings Toy Drive. Thanks to some help from the fire department and local businesses, parishioners were able to collect and hand out nearly 800 toys to children in need. They were also able to raise $20,000 to help support the cause. That's wonderful. Still to come on Currents News, no tips necessary, how hotels in California are tackling staffing shortages to the surprise of their guests.
Our robot is waiting outside your door for you to pick it up.
As we reported earlier, staffing shortages aren't letting up anytime soon. Hotels in particular have been hard-pressed to provide attentive service during the pandemic. But in California, robots have been filling the gap to the surprise and delight of guests. David Louie is in Silicon Valley with a first-hand look.
This is how hotels are dealing with staffing shortages. A guest would like a soft drink delivered to the room. This robot will handle the task. Designed by Silicon Valley's Savvy Oak, the relay robot is ready to deliver.
They're in this kind of crunch mode where the higher paid staff are filling in for things that, frankly, robots can do.
The robot needs to be trained only once to navigate the lobby and hallways. It even has been adapted to call for an elevator. Once inside, it can press the button for the designated floor. Hotel corridors can be tricky to navigate, even for humans, with housekeeping carts and other guests.
So what happens when this robot comes and I happen to be in the way? It's trying to work around me. And if I step in this path again, well, we could do sort of a dance here, couldn't we? Look at that.
It's that playful characteristic that makes the robot almost human, but it really is good at getting around people. Look at how it handles a crowded lobby. Once it gets to the room, it calls the guest to announce its arrival.
Our robot is waiting outside your door for you to pick it up.
The robot opens its compartment door, and there's the soft drink the guest requested.
You don't have to tip it. There's no obligation. There's no handout. And you don't even have to get dressed for it.
The robot has reduced room service from 30 down to 5 minutes in many cases. It also reduces COVID anxiety.
There's guests that like that, the fact that they can have items delivered and not have that contact with a human being. And it's more of an enhanced experience than it is replacing someone.
The robot's on call 24/7. It doesn't have days off or take vacations.
Gotta love that robot dance. That was David Louie reporting. And it's not just the hotel industry taking advantage of service robots. They've also been used to serve food at restaurants and to clean public spaces in hospitals. Who knew? And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.